Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. My name is Steve Smith, and I'm your host, and you can probably tell that the voice is a little bit average. It's dropped a few octaves, what can I tell you? I've gone pretty crook, and I've tried to hold off for a week to no avail. As it turns out, it's still quite low and still pretty average, and I'll try and curtail my coughing and spluttering in the meantime as I bring this one to you. Ladies and gentlemen, Walking in Fairways makes a return. This is episode number 103. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we begin Walking the Fairways for 2025, very first episode, but we're going to start off with a message, and that has been for the very devastating fires that are currently burning over there in the United States, in Los Angeles specifically. And this is a message to anyone who's currently in LA or knows family or friends in LA. And there's going to be plenty of you out there that do or that are. And I know I've got listeners out there, so I can say that as well. Our thoughts and prayers are with everyone in LA that are going through this devastating fire event where multiple fires are burning in and around Los Angeles. So it's just so disheartening to see, and just my heart sinks when I see it, because I grew up in a bushfire region, and I've unfortunately been through, never lost my house or anything like that, but certainly it's been flames licking close by, and it's very, very difficult and challenging to go through, let alone if you're on the worst side of things where you lose property or lives. I just can't get my head around that. So I know that over in the US, it's my second highest audience of the podcast behind Australia, and there's quite a few listeners that I have in the LA region, specifically also in the Pacific Palisades, which are one of the worst hit areas of Los Angeles. Now, I've actually received some messages from people over there. One in particular I got from an expat Aussie greenkeeper by the name of Tom Appleton, who's actually the assistant superintendent at LA Country Club, which I'm sure everyone's heard of. Now, he sent me a message about how some of the course staff where he works have actually lost their homes. And that's a real hard hit. These fires in LA are nothing short of an absolute catastrophe, and I can't stress that enough. If you don't understand fire, bushfires, wildfires, you probably don't really quite know how fast and how absolutely horrifying they are. And speed is something that you really can't comprehend until you've been up close with them. And it is absolutely out of control. It's like something that's even very, very difficult to describe. All I can say from the other side of the world to anyone listening in California currently living through these fires is that our thoughts and prayers are with you all, and I hope the fires come to an end very, very soon. It's devastating to see here in Australia. No, I've got no doubts that the Australian government will be sending people over to support where it can, because that happens when we have bad fires. A lot of the US emergency services and fire professionals come out to help us in our fire season, and no doubt we'll be doing the same in return. So I wish you all the very, very best, and our thoughts and prayers are with everyone currently in LA going through these fires. Moving along to the actual news that normally comes with Walking the Fairways, ladies and gentlemen. I'm also playing catch-up a little bit. So there's a little bit of news that's coming that's probably like a month or two old from the end of last year, but I think it's relevant. It's always good to hear what's happening. We're going to start in the far west, a place that I've grown to enjoy, and certainly after my visit last year there to Perth, WA, is really a place that I'm intrigued to learn more about and always talk about. I'm going to start with on the back of my last podcast episode with Idris Evans, superintendent at the Western Australian Golf Club. Now, at the Western Australian Golf Club, they've just finished hosting Blitz Golf, and from what I've heard on the ground and what I've seen online and social media, it looked like an absolutely sensational event with huge crowds walking the fairways. And of course, Idris and his team had the golf course looking absolutely magnificent. And for those of you that want to know more about what it takes to bring out the best in the golf course at the Western Australian Golf Club, go to my last podcast episode number 102, which was the John Deere Keeper of the Green segment, where I had a great chat with Idris Evans about his career and what it takes to look after the Western Australian Golf Club. Really, really interesting insight, and one that I know you'll enjoy. So get back and have a listen to that one. Now we go to the Royal Fremantle Golf Club. That's also over there in Perth, and it's next on the map, just having hosted the WebEx Players Series Perth. just on the weekend past with Superintendent Jason Kelly and his team there preparing the golf course for the tournament. I'm a huge fan of the WebEx Players Series, and it's great to see it over there in Perth on the back of my last podcast, as I mentioned, with Idris, where we just spoke about big tournament golf in WA as well. So it looks like there's certainly an appetite for golf, for tournament golf over there. The golf fans in WA really getting on the back of Blitz Golf, the WebEx Players Series, and hopefully soon, sometime soon, we'll be able to see a big tournament hosted back over there in Perth. Gone are the days of the Heineken Classic and so on, and the Johnny Walkers. So let's see something big come back to Perth. But the WebEx Players Series, look, it's a really cool mixed format where both men and women compete for the one prize purse against each other, and they have separate sort of teeing areas to counteract the distance factor in the way men and women play golf a little bit differently. But it works out really, really well, and it comes down to a flying finish nearly most occasions, which is sensational. We've had men win, women win, and it's great to watch. It really is, and it's even better on the ground. You can get out there and walk the fairways and watch it on the ground wherever it's being held if you're nearby. It's worth going to. It really is. I went to the one back in Bonnie-Doon a couple of years ago here in Sydney. But it started off last year in October, actually, for the WebEx Players Series event in Adelaide at Wollonga Golf Club. That was a great one to start off the season with, but then we waited, obviously, to the turn of the year, and a few days ago, like I mentioned, we had Perth. Next week is Victoria at Rosebud Golf Club. The week after that is Murray River at Cobram Barooga, which is the one that I'll actually be going to. So for anyone interested in thinking about going to the WebEx Players Series Murray River up at Cobram Barooga on the Murray, I'll be there. I'll be there on the Thursday, so on round one. So if you want to catch up with me and get out there and see what this type of event is all about, and watch some fantastic golf on some fantastic golf courses that you don't often hear about, but we're starting to hear about because these are televised on Fox Sports. It's fantastic. Get out there to Cobram because I'll be there. And then to finish the season will be the final one a few weeks after Cobram is the WebEx Players Series Sydney, and that's held at Castle Hill Golf Club, or Castle Hill Country Club, I think it is, in northwestern Sydney, and that's the final event for the season, and a great way to finish off. The Castle Hill held it for the first time last year, a cracking event. So get over there. But great to see Royal Fremantle hosting the WebEx Players Series Perth. Congratulations to Superintendent Jason Kelly and his team. Fantastic job. The course looked magnificent, and it was another great event to watch. We head south to Bustleton Golf Club, and a shout out to Superintendent Lance Knox, who some of you know that I've interviewed a couple of years ago on Keeper of the Greens. Fantastic guest and a wonderful individual is Lance. And at the end of last year, they finished rebuilding their 6th green and 6th tee. Lots of improvements continuing at Bustleton Golf Club, so if you're over in WA, make some time for a trip down the south side of Perth to Bustleton and have a round to see how good the course is going and how well it's improving. And also a shout out to apprentice Casey Williams. Now, she's an apprentice under Lance and has been nominated for the Western Australian Sports Turf Association Golf Apprentice of the Year. So a big good luck to Casey from me and I'm sure everyone as well with the award that she'll be competing for, but going for, I believe it's in February, is the beginning of that process. So good luck, Casey. A shout out to you as well out there at Bustleton. Now we go to the north side of Perth to Wanneroo Golf Club. Now they've rebuilt. I've never really talked about Wanneroo before, but they've just been doing some work on their 16th hole. They've rebuilt their 16th green at the end of last year. Now the 16th, I've looked into this. Didn't go there during my visit, but I've looked into it. Now the 16th is a brute of a golf hole. It's nearly 500 metres long from the back tees. There's a gentle rise from the tee shot as the hole bends left in the first sort of bend of the hole. It bends left before making your way to the green, and a late soft kick to the right in the hole shape, right to at the very end as you approach the green. It is a monster golf hole. And it's a pretty awesome one. It's a pretty awesome hole to have in one of the closing holes. I'm not sure when the green will be ready and open for play, but as a member of the club or a frequent visitor of the club, I'm sure you'll be excited for the new green when it finally does get open and come into play. So that's a little bit of what's happening over there at Wanneroo Golf Club. A little pause for me to settle the voice a little bit. As I mentioned, I am struggling a little bit. Going to move to the Northern Territory. Not a lot of news comes out of the Northern Territory, but I've got something for you. It's actually from friend of the podcast, Jimmy Downs at Humpty Doo Golf Club. At the end of last year, they opened their newly built fourth green, a big, exciting new project that has been completed by Jimmy and the club and is sensational to see at Humpty Doo. Now, to all the Northern Territorians, get out to Humpty Doo Golf Club and test out their new green with a game of golf there. Go out there and do it and say g'day to Jimmy. If you haven't heard, listen to Jimmy. I interviewed him on Keeper of the Greens, I think it was October last year. And a cracking yarn, a great story, and Jimmy has. But also, Humpty Doo is a fantastic little 9-hole golf course at the top end that if you're up that way, make a point of going and playing golf there. Congratulations to Jimmy and the club at Humpty Doo for rebuilding and opening their new fourth green. We move south into South Australia, and there's some news coming out of the Cliffs, Kangaroo Island. New golf course build coming out of there, and irrigation's been installed and tested on course. Now look for this project to start moving in leaps and bounds now that water infrastructure is in. A lot of people, like myself, have been sitting in the background watching this for the last couple of years to see how it's progressing, and they've hit some pretty good milestones in just over the last 2 months, really. So very, very exciting times for everyone involved at the Cliffs, Kangaroo Island. So I'll keep you informed of that one and how it's going. Now, a bit of older news, but it gets a mention. Late last year, Club South Australia Clubs and Community Award for Environmental Awareness was won by Glenelg Golf Club for all the work that's been done and continues to be done on the golf course. Now, I've often talked about the work that's being done there with the redesigning of the golf course, the reimagining of the golf course at Glenelg, and the work led by Superintendent Tim Warren and former Biodiversity Manager Menina Gilby. Now, Menina still works at the club, but she's not specifically employed as an employee of the club anymore, but she'll be doing more work further in the industry now that she and Kate Torgerson have teamed up for their new environmental consulting business, Torgerson Gilby. Tim and Menina are friends of the podcast, and I'm big fans of theirs, and I've interviewed both of these wonderful people, and both of their podcasts are actually some of the highest listened episodes I've ever done. They still rate very well. So a shout out to Tim and Menina for accepting the award on behalf of Glenelg Golf Club for the South Australian Clubs and Community Award for Environmental Awareness. Congratulations, everyone involved. Big win. Now, heading into Queensland, ladies and gentlemen, and a shout-out to Richard Flesser at Lakelands Golf Club on the Gold Coast, a fantastic Jack Nicklaus design golf course. They've been busy at the end of last year, and I got some photos from Richard, and I haven't put them up yet on my socials, but I will do so. He might even actually, Richard, if you're listening, you can send me a couple of updated ones, mate. I do apologise I didn't get the other ones out at the end of last year. But they've been busy at the end of last year rebuilding their second green on the golf course. Now, it's been the best part of maybe 9 years since I played Lakeland, so I don't even remember the second hole, but we're actually chatting about whether I go out to the Lakelands for a game when I'm up at the Gold Coast next month. So I probably will do that now and have a look at the second green. But they've been busy rebuilding the second green at Lakelands, and Lakelands is a sensational golf course on the Gold Coast. So a shout out to Richard. Thank you, mate. I appreciate that info. Ashgrove Golf Club in Brisbane. Now, they've completed some new work rebuilding their 16th and 18th tees. The main goal was to re-level the tees and increase their size, which they've executed well, and it's a great update there at Ashgrove, along with the work they did, I think it might have even been a year ago, in the repairs after their floods that they'd done there. So lots of little improvements continuing in Ashgrove, and it's great to hear. Now, this one's a late shout-out, and it's to a couple of people that have won some awards in Queensland at the end of last year. And I thought it was important because I'm all for acknowledging when people have done well, much like I just did when we talked about, when I mentioned to you, Glenelg Golf Club there in Adelaide. Well, no different up in Queensland at the end of last year. They had some awards happening. And first shout out is to Graham Andrews, Superintendent of Tambourine Mountain Golf Club. And that I am a huge fan of on the Gold Coast hinterland. Now, of course, I had Graham on the podcast in October last year for a conversation of John Deere Golf Keeper of the Greens. And if you want to hear a cracker of a conversation, go back and listen to that one. Graham was a fantastic guest, and he is a very, very knowledgeable superintendent there looking after Tambourine Mountain Golf Club. What I wanted to mention was Graham won the Golf Course Superintendents Association of Queensland Superintendents Achievement Award. which is absolutely fantastic. So he took that award out last year, and was great when I had the conversation with him in October, because we chatted about some of the challenges he goes through at Tamborine Mountain and what he's been doing to improve the golf course. So a great listen if you want to go back a couple of episodes and search back for Graham in that one. But congratulations from me to Graham for taking out the Superintendent's Achievement Award up there in Queensland. Now, also another winner, and a shout out to Mick McComb, who's superintendent at Mullaney Golf Club on the Sunshine Coast hinterland. Now, Mick had won the Superintendent's Environment and Safety Excellence Award. So another fantastic award to be winning. And I know that Mick listens to the podcast. So shout out to Mick and his team at Mullaney. I've heard so many good things about Mullaney. And if you're up there in the Sunshine Coast region playing golf, or you're up there for golf, I'm going to tell you to go and make the head west and up into the hinterland and play Mullaney, because I have so many people who continue to tell me that if I ever get the opportunity when I'm up that way, go and play Mullaney. It's an absolute pearler of a golf course. So I'm saying that to you guys out there. If you haven't heard that already, I'm telling you. So get up there and play Mullaney. And if I don't know when I'll get the chance. I've never actually been. I won't say never. It's been about 25 years, 30 years since I was at the Sunshine Coast. But yeah, Mullaney is one worth getting up there and playing. Congratulations to Mick. And also a final shout out to Andrew Lothian, who won the award for Golf Course Assistant Superintendent's Recognition Award. Now, congratulations to Andrew. Andrew's at Sanctuary Cove Golf Club on the Gold Coast, the awesome 36-hole facility, the Pines and the Palms golf courses there. And Sanctuary Cove is absolutely fantastic. It is. As an aside, and congratulations to Andrew, but as an aside, Andrew and I actually went through TAFE together at Richmond here in Sydney back in the late 1990s when we were apprentices. I think, Andrew, if I'm not mistaken, you were at Fox Hills and I was at Wentworth Falls Country Club. And we went through TAFE together at the time, and like anything, you lose touch over time, but we bumped into each other when I called into the new work being done, rebuilding the greens on the Pines golf course there at Sanctuary Cove a couple of years ago, when I caught up with the then superintendent, Paul McLean. But there you go. Andrew's now winning awards. Great stuff, mate, and congratulations to those three gentlemen, Graham, Mick, and Andrew. Something pretty special about winning industry awards, and I certainly pass on my congratulations to those three guys. Now, there's a bit of news on the super front as well. After my recent trip to Hobart, where I caught up with Superintendent Sean Bowden at Royal Hobart, he was the superintendent at Royal Hobart. Sean has now made the move up north and has recently taken up the post of superintendent at the Royal Pines Golf Club on the Gold Coast. Now, Royal Pines is a magnificent 27-hole complex. It's former host of the Men's Australian PGA and, of course, the Australian Ladies Masters for many, many years. And that had past winners such as the incredible Carrie Webb, who effectively owned the tournament. She basically owned the event. She won it that many bloody times. Laura Davies, Annika Sorenstam, and Cheyenne Woods, of course, just to name a few. I wish Sean all the best, and I hope to catch up with Sean next time I'm up at the Gold Coast. I'll be sure to drop in and see how it's all going up there. I'm a big fan of Royal Pines. Graham Marsh redesign in recent years. I think it's now probably about 8 years old, I'm guessing, the redesign. Big fan of the golf course, I am. So that's a bit coming out of Queensland. We move now to New South Wales. Now, of course, there's a lot of buzz happening in New South Wales, and a bit like Victoria, some big courses doing big work. And we talk about Royal Sydney Golf Club and the redesign being done there and carried out at the moment. The redesign work done by Gil Hance, and that is going gangbusters. We all saw some images towards the end of last year which look absolutely impressive, and I've got to say it's exactly what I, for one, was certainly hoping to see. I think we're finally going to see Royal Sydney genuinely be considered one of the best golf courses in Australia, and it'll need a little bit of time to grow in as the vegetation matures and you really start to see the turf maturing as well. But when this golf course opens back up after this rebuild and redesign, I think lots of people will be climbing over themselves to be able to get a look, and the membership of the Royal Sydney Golf Club will really be buzzing about what they have and what they've created, engaging Gil Hance there to do the redesign. So congratulations to everyone involved over at Royal Sydney Golf Club, and looking forward to seeing some more images coming through from there. The other one that's happened, and it's kicked off at the end of last year, was the New South Wales Golf Club. Now, it's hooking in, that golf club, they're hooking into their full course redesign and rebuild there. Now, and I say full course, it's there's so much work going on, and we've never really seen this level of work being done at New South Wales Golf Club in recent years, and I'm talking in the last sort of 30 years. It's done by Mackenzie and Ebert, who are the design firm based out of the UK. And like Gil Hance, actually, this is their first work in Australia, and Royal Sydney is Gil's first work in Australia. Now, I've seen some of the images coming out of New South Wales Golf Club, and I've got to tell you, I really want to get out there and see it on the ground because it looks extremely impressive. Absolutely so. And I think, I've as much as I'm a fan of New South Wales Golf Club, I've kind of always thought it probably fell a little bit short of where it should be. You don't often hear me say that because it's a very well-established golf club. We know that historically. And they're proud members of their golf club, as you would expect. And it's an incredible site. And the routing's fantastic. It's got some incredible golf holes. But it's kind of like it's always been 90%. And you kind of want it to be a little bit like a Royal Melbourne or a Kingston Heath or a Victoria Victoria, I should say, where they did the renos and it really rocketed up there. Kingston Heath and Royal Melbourne. It sort of makes the most out of the landscape that it's on. And I, for one, as much as I love and admire New South Wales Golf Club, I've always felt that it's just been short of the polished top, and kind of hard for me to put a finger on why. A little bit like Long Reef, big fan of Long Reef here in Sydney. Location is outstanding, but again, always feels just short of a length. And again, a little bit hard for me to sort of detail and think it's probably a 15-minute, 20-minute spot on its own just to talk about those little details. But New South Wales, Mackenzie and Ebert, I've seen the design. I'm really excited. I've seen some images now coming out of it. I'm really excited about what it's going to become. And hopefully I get to talk to Mark Parker and see if we can get some more insight about what's going on the ground. I'd love to get out there and have a look. So I'll keep you posted on that as well, much like Royal Sydney. But they're the two big hitters in Sydney, and we've got something that's going to be pretty special in Sydney. I don't think Royal Sydney and New South Wales have ever been in a position or will ever be in. They've never been in a position like they're about to be with these rebuilds. So impressive stuff, and certainly something to keep an eye on. Now, the Lakes Golf Club at the end of last year were completing some works on course, and I'm yet to detail just exactly what they've been completing, but I believe it's some work on their greens, a couple of greens there. I'll do some work to try and find out exactly what's been going on there. But Anthony Mills, the superintendent, is obviously doing a fantastic job, as we know, keeping the course well. I've seen some images coming out of the lakes. Lots of people are playing it when they get the opportunity, and certainly their membership. They're very proud of the Lakes Golf Club in Sydney, and a little bit of work that OCM has been doing is my understanding, some tweaks on some greens there at the lakes, and I'll keep you updated. Mollymook Golf Club down the south coast of New South Wales, the Hilltop course. They've recently completed construction of a new 19th spare hole on course. This hole was designed by architect Ryan Vanderveen, who you might have heard of from all the work being done in recent times over at Glenelg Golf Club there in Adelaide. And incidentally, and it looks fantastic, great to have a spare hole, great facility on a golf course. Ryan's also actually a new member of the Society of Australian Golf Course Architects, which is great to see. And that'll be something that I'll be involved bringing more out about the architects of Australia through the Society with my design brief segment that I'm bringing back in 2025. So stay tuned for that one, because I'll be interviewing some of our Australian golf course architects and other architects around the world. I've actually got pegged to interview as well. But it'll have a focus on Australia too, and the Society of Australian Golf Course Architects. So that'll be coming out soon, and that's what's happening down at Mollymook, down the south coast, and a little bit up the central coast of New South Wales on Shelley Beach Golf Club, just to the north of Sydney. Now, my understanding is they are rebuilding their 18th green. That's a little bit of late mail that's just come in the last hour, if I'm being honest, of recording. So I thought I'd mention that. I'll look into Shelley Beach and what's happening up there on the 18th, but I believe they're rebuilding their 18th green. So if you know Shelley, right on the beach there, Pacific Ocean, much like Magenta Shores, it's right on the edge of the coast, and Belmont, for example, up the north side of town. And Shelley Beach, new 18th is what's happening up there on the Central Coast. Now we head into Victoria, ladies and gentlemen, and we start off with a shout out to Brett Stuser, Superintendent at Strathallan Golf Club in the northern suburbs of Melbourne. Strathallan is a 9-holer, and they've recently embarked on some pretty big projects on course, starting with a new 6th green being built and seeded with pure distinction bent grass on the putting green surface, and they've sprigged the surrounds with Santa Ana Cooch. Now, they've also line planted their 9th fairway with Santa Ana Cooch. So some big projects at Strathallan, and they're investing in their golf course to improve it. And look, it's great to hear for a 9-hole golf course, and it's one that probably doesn't get talked about at all, to be fair. But thanks to Brett for reaching out and getting in touch with me and letting me know what they're up to, because that's what I want to be able to do, is bring to you what's happening around some of these courses, and it might give you an idea to go and play some of them as well. Now, this is great news for Strathallan and great to hear for the local community around there, and very good for the members as well that frequent Strathallan. If you don't know about it and you're looking for a quick round of 9 holes in the northeast of Melbourne City thereabouts, why not jump up to Strathallan for a round? It's not that far from La Trobe Uni, just north of Heidelberg. So if you know Melbourne, the North Melbourne area a little bit, that's where we're looking, and that's where Strathallan is. So look, I'm happy to give a plug to Strathallan, and thanks to Brett for reaching out. So get up there, ladies and gentlemen, and have a quick round of 9 holes and see what it's all about. You will no doubt enjoy yourself for something a little bit different. Now, also a little shout out. I'm going to drop this one in the middle. A shout out to Thomas Rickard at Caneaton Golf Club, the northwest outside Melbourne on the way to Bendigo. I think Caneaton is how you spell it, how you pronounce it, I should say. Thomas actually reached out to me at the end of last year and let me know that he's a new young superintendent out there, and he's been toiling away and working hard on course, and really trying to make a stamp on the golf course and improve it. So a shout out to both Thomas Rickard and also Caneaton Golf Club. If anyone knows it out there, you might have played it. That's what's going on. So they've got a new young super in Thomas Rickard, and mate, a shout out to you, and I wish you well in the role of superintendent, mate. It's always an uphill challenge, and you're on a steep learning curve, mate, as you and I talked about, and I passed on to you when we had a chat on the phone, mate. But I just wanted to say thanks for reaching out, and appreciate you taking the time to listen, mate. And if anyone's out there, Thomas is up at Caneaton. Malakuta Golf Club in the far east of Victoria has finally completed their final green rebuild since the devastating bushfires that ripped through there a number of years ago now. Now, I'm sure the club is very much looking forward to the day the new green is officially open for play, and they can finally turn the page after the fires that devastated not only the golf course, but the entire local region and community. So Malakuta is slowly coming back, slowly repairing and recovering, and Malakuta Golf Club have done the last lot of work on course, and really, really good to see for the club and the local area. And that's another region that I know is popular with Victorians to go and visit, and people down the southern coast of New South Wales as well will drop down into the Victorian state there at Malakuta. I've been there, I've camped there. Malakuta is actually a really beautiful part of the country. So been a long time, but I remember camping there right on that southeastern part of the country. Barwon Heads on the Bellarine Peninsula, southwest of Melbourne. They've recently had some work completed by architects Craft and Mogford, with some tee redesign works on the 1st and 13th holes. So there's some little improvements. Barwon, I've not been to myself, but by all accounts is an absolutely incredible golf course. Ranks very well in the Australian Top 100, right at the top in the rankings. It's right up there. And just a few little tweaks by Craft and Mogford, and it's probably not something that they need to be doing a great deal of work on, not some wholesale changes, because it's a fantastic golf course. But there you go, a little bit of work that they're doing as well. Craft and Mogford themselves as architects are also completing some more work, and this is at the famed Metropolitan Golf Club in Melbourne. Their 11th hole is now being completed, which entailed modifying the green itself and redesigning the surrounding bunkers on the par 3 hole. And look, and that's... Metro's been working through their greens over the last couple of years, and Superintendent John Mann is one of the best in the country at his craft, doing what he does to bring the best out in the turf. John showed me around there, I think it was a year ago, or even a little bit more, actually. Now I think of it, geez, time flies, doesn't it? And I was blown away by Metro, and I was really impressed by the quality of the turf surfaces, which it's known for, and it's an incredible layout. There's a lot of work going on around Melbourne on the sandbelt to a lot of other courses. And I'll detail that in coming episodes of Walking the Fairways. I don't want to make it too long because there's lots of news coming out. So I'll catch up with some of the other Victorian Melbourne golf courses in the next Walking the Fairways. But that's a little bit of an update what's happening there at Metropolitan Golf Club as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Walking the Fairways takes a new turn for 2025. So, as an we're going to have people coming in. We're going to have people popping in to say g'day and talk about some things that I think are helpful to the industry of greenkeeping and golf courses and architecture and the like. So, straight away on the line, we've got a friend of the podcast, former guest, former sponsor actually. So, he's been a good friend for a long time. Nadeem Zrykat from Colin Campbell Chemicals. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good to see yourself.
Very well, thank you, mate. You'll always have a spot. You get a free plug because you've been a sponsor in the past, mate. You're a big fan. I know you're a big supporter, mate. So happy to have you on. Now, mate, you've got something pretty. We're going to talk about something pretty cool here because it's a new, updated resource for the greenkeeping industry that we want to talk about. That you've shown me this book. It's a book. It's a great resource. The book is titled "Biology and Integrated Management of Turf Grass Diseases." And, mate, give us a bit of a rundown, the people involved behind the book and why you want to talk about it for us.
Yeah, number one, it's Australian. So that's the key to it. It's like, if you guys remember that resources episode we did, we talked about a book called Compendium of Turf Grass Diseases.
Yep.
This is the Australian version. That's the best way to put it.
Okay.
So it was led by Dr. Percy Wong, who a lot of listeners will hopefully be familiar. He's at University of Sydney, plant pathologist, disease guru with him. Dr. Nathan Walker from Oklahoma State, who's a good close personal friend of Percy. Gary Behag, he keeps on saying to me he didn't do much, but he sort of brought it all together. He's a stalwart of the industry. And Yuri Capro, who a lot of listeners would know him, obviously now working for Enview, but before with Bayer and before with Atri and those and those type of things. So they're the four authors of the book, and what I really like about this book is that it is all Australian. It's got a lot of Australian pictures, and it's written from an Australian perspective, and it makes perfect sense. Like, it's one of those things that we always look at the American resources, which are great, don't get me wrong, but we've never had anything for Australia. Well, not since the old, some listeners will remember the Atri days.
The Atri days, mate. That is so. There's lots of people that won't even know what that is.
No. Well, the Atri wasn't even around when we started in the industry either.
I know.
That's the thing. It was sort of falling by the wayside. So it was the Australian Turf Research Institute, which we used to have.
Yep.
And I'll just say, it's like I did have Peter McMahon talk about it on the podcast that I did last year. So have a listen to that. But yeah, it's like going, and this is the first time. So it's a great learning tool. It's easy to follow. It has pictures of diseases. It talks about the diseases, why they come in, what causes the disease, and how to deal with them culturally wise as well. So it's not like, here's your problem, this is what chemical you use. It's like, no, it's understanding the disease totally.
Yes. And that's what's so good about it, mate. And I'll pick up on a couple of points there, and you said it's Australian. These names that we talk about, Gary Behag, Yuri Capro, Dr. Percy Wong, from the Aussie perspective, Dr. Nathan Walker from the US. But like you said, this is really a homegrown gathering of information that's sort of centred around a viewpoint from the southern hemisphere, if you like, and certainly Australia and New Zealand. And really, really great to see. I've had a look in the book itself. It's well laid out. It's got some great detail. And, mate, I know why you wanted to talk about it. I know it's a great resource for people, and that's why you're about helping people. But, hey, did I just see your name on a couple of the photos in here, mate? Is that what this is all about?
I made it. I did make a very small contribution to the book. Gary had asked me if I had any pictures that could be used, and I said, mate, I will send you everything I got, and you're more than welcome to. And I was surprised to actually see any of them used, so I'd like to thank Gary for accepting those.
Yeah, no, mate, I had to make a bit of a joke about that because I saw your name. I was like, yes, this is why you like it. Because when you got in touch with me, it wasn't that long ago, you said, Steve, I've got this. There's this great resource out for people to look at, and it's a great updated version. So being Australian-centric, and there's a lot of info there from the States because there's so much research in the past that's still relevant. But updated photos, updated information from an Australian-New Zealand perspective, mostly obviously Australia, written by three people that are from Australia, and great experience in all of those four names, and obviously the three from Australia, which we know. And I love the fact that they're I go back to the Australian base. So when I was looking at it, I was like, these are from, it says Southern Australia, Northern Australia, wherever, different parts of the country.
Yep.
And you go, you know what, these are recent as well, which is good. They're not just photos that have been taken, historical photos, and recategorized. They're current ones as well. There's lots of updated references to the papers that have been referenced in here as well with the information, which is really good. And mate, one of the big ones that was glaring to me, and this is going to sound weird because I've only been out of the game for 11 years technically, but the reclassification of a lot of disease names, which really surprised me, like the dollar spot and fusarium. Some of the ones the common names that we know, they've been reclassified because of the new information and data that they've, under the research, that have found links with other strains of the diseases. So they've had to reclassify. So if you want to stay up to date with things, and that's going to have an impact on your tools that you'll have at your disposal, that you want to be across, and different cultural methods and things that you might come up against. So, mate, really interesting and updated info that I've been out for, like I said, for 10 years, and a lot's changed.
It has a lot more than people probably realize. So, like one of the things is like, if a student was doing if you were a TAFE student doing your greenkeeping certificate 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and then you do it now going, whatever was written 10, 15 years, look, it's still definitely relevant, but there's going to be a lot of terms that are going to be updated. So any of the kids going out there and doing the greenkeeping course, definitely have a look at this book. If your TAFE doesn't have it, they need to go out and get it, because you might write in regards to, I've got Fusarium Navarre, where it's just like going, well, Fusarium is now Microdocium, so
I know.
you've got to get the terminology correct.
Mate, I went through the pages backwards and forwards and going, it's Fusarium. I'm sure that's what I'm looking at, until I had to understand that it was a new name. And likewise with dollar spot. That one surprised me as well, because of all the different strains that they're now seeing. There's the relationship where they're actually from the same family, if you like, for want of a better term.
That's right, and we're understanding these diseases more, and that's the thing about them. It's things aren't going to be rewritten, but as advancements in technology and research, we tend to find out more and more and dig down, and in the end, we're going to be able to manage these diseases a lot better than we ever had. Have been before, especially from a cultural point of view.
And that's the key to this is just more knowledge, more understanding of what's in front of you, what you're dealing with, and there might be different strains that are now being talked about that are in the same category, but people know, they go, oh, you know what, I think that's there, but I'm not sure exactly. And all of a sudden, we're looking at lots of this research, which just goes on to prove and talk about how it's all connected better, and there's new updated information, which, mate, is fantastic. So, biology and integrated management of turfgrass diseases. Now, and it's written by Gary Behag, Nathan Walker, Percy Wong, and Yuri Capro. So for people who want to, look, this is a great resource for any maintenance facility. So if you're a superintendent listening, this is one to consider. If you're a greenkeeper that's recently finished your trade time, or you're an apprentice and you want to get ahead of the game and understand stuff in more detail, and this stuff really is interesting to you, great relationship from the technical side of things and the knowledge in this book to what's on the ground that you might be seeing or traveling around to. So, mate, lots of reasons why lots of different people with different levels of experience should consider this as a great resource for their own knowledge, and certainly from a maintenance facility perspective for the team as well. You're the person to talk to try and, it's the easiest way to get hold of this book, mate. How we want people to get in touch with you. Give us your email. How do we do it?
Yeah, please. So just give me, so I can direct the guys whereabouts to get it from, because there's all different ways you can get it. Because it got published in the UK, so it comes out of there. But definitely get in touch with me. I can help you out in sort of helping in regards to better pricing with freight and all those type of things, and guide you. But email me, Zrycat at campbellchemicals.com.au. I think you'll hopefully have the email address in the show notes. It's on our website as well.
I will have the email in the show notes. I'll put the link in there so that people can grab it and look at it on their phones or on the computer and get that. But you might as well spell it, mate, just the same. Yeah,
sure. It's ZREIKAT at campbellchemicals with an S on the end, .com.au.
Perfecto, mate. It's this is sensational, and I really appreciate you coming to me so we can tell the industry as a whole with this sort of stuff. So great updated resource for our country. And so I say our country, Australia and New Zealand, most relevant too, because it's Southern Hemisphere stuff, centered. So fantastic, mate. Thank you so much, Nadeem. Really appreciate that. And everyone, check out the clickable email link in the show notes for the info, and get in touch with Nadeem, and he will guide you around to the best way to get hold of it, and at the best prices around. Now, mate, we can't leave you without talking about Behind the Turf podcast, because I am doing work for you and helping you get that out there and putting it all together in the editing phase. But, mate, Behind the Turf has got, again, resources and great resource information, knowledge coming out. You've done some great interviews and there's more to come. Tell us a little bit more about it. Free plug for your pod.
Yeah, no, thank you, Steve. Really appreciate you, talking about the podcast and helping me out, putting it all together. You were definitely instrumental in getting me to get this thing up and going again. I had some episodes recorded, but just hadn't sort of got there, and now we're working towards it. So I've got some new episodes from things I recorded over in the US with past guests that I've had on before, that we talk about similar things. We also talk about different things from an agronomic perspective. And I've actually got a couple of other episodes coming out. One is about the status of the industry and what's the future going to hold. And also I'm going to have a talk with someone who writes books in regards to golf courses, in regards to their flora and fauna for kids, and helping the golf course communicate to the community in regards to how much of a benefit a golf courses are to the green space side of things.
That's sensational.
So I've got some pretty cool episodes there, Dave. But thank you, Steve, for helping me out with putting it all together.
Oh, mate, it's all that's a lot of this podcast is all about. It's about helping people in our industry, in golf, and getting them to enjoy the details and a lot of the technical side as well. So happy to be able to broadcast out there for people to be able to improve in their careers, and we're talking about resources and that, and your podcast is a great resource for the technical information that's available through your interviews with a lot of the experts and the professors and doctors and things that you talk to, and the people you talk to, mate, all over Australia and the world, and particularly the US. You're going back over there soon?
Yeah, heading over there for the GCSAA conference, as it's called now, in San Diego in a couple of weeks since we're recording this. Be the beginning of February. So I'm not so much recording any podcasts there, but I'm going to line up a few guests to do it when I'm back, because it gets that busy. But I will be doing my famous, hopefully I call my famous vlog, where I walk around and talk and get interrupted and make a fool of myself, and hopefully give people a good laugh. But also the other side of it is people get to see what's over there, what's happening, and I'll go to lectures and tell you what I've learned. And then I'll also go to the trade show. And one of the things going, if anyone's watching it, it'll be on YouTube, Facebook, and the likes. And if there's anything there that you see, please send me a direct message when I'm over there, and I can pick up some information for you, whether it's a brochure or a contact. More than happy to help.
Fantastic, mate. Like I said, friend of the podcast, Nadeem, always happy to have you on from time to time to help the industry out, mate. Really appreciate it. Look forward to following more of Behind the Turf podcast. Clickables in the show notes, people.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me on. And good luck to everyone out there.
Now, thanks, Nadeem, for that, and really good to be able to add some of these parts to and bring in different voices to walking the fairway. So you're going to have insight to the golf courses around Australia. And obviously, like Nadeem then, it's something for the greenkeeping industry. It's a resource. I'm big on education and learning, getting better, and it's good to know that those resources are out there and available. Now, to finish off the podcast, something a little bit different, actually, and I'm going to make an announcement, actually. So this is something that I hope you'll all be interested in, and I hope you're going to support. So here it is. I've got an announcement of a gentleman of the greenkeeping industry, particular individual of the greenkeeping industry by the name of Nigel Taylor. Now, some of you might even know Nigel. And for those that don't, like me until last week, Nigel's a former greenkeeper who is now currently living and working in Malaysia in the sales and supply side of the greenkeeping industry. Nigel moved from New Zealand to the Gold Coast, where he grew up and did his time as an apprentice greenkeeper at Sanctuary Cove Golf Club before embarking on the Ohio State program in the USA, like so many young Aussie greenkeepers, as you've heard me talk about to many of them in my Keep of the Green segment. Now, Nigel then went on to work at courses in countries such as Barbados, England and Thailand. That's a little bit about Nigel's background. And the reason I wanted to tell you about Nigel is, and my announcement as they pair together, and this is it. Nigel is attempting something extremely mind-blowing, and it's all in the name of increasing the awareness of mental health in the greenkeeping industry. Nigel is going to be completing a challenge that is called Everesting, as in Mount Everest. It's a real challenge. They even have their own website for it if you want to look it up. It's everesting.com, everesting.com. In basic terms, it's where you pick a hill anywhere in the world and you climb that hill repeatedly in the one activity of your choice with no sleep until you reach your particular elevation. Now, for Nigel, it's going to be the full Mount Everest elevation of 8,848 metres. Nigel's chosen activity is cycling, and he's got right into the long-distance cycling in recent years. So that means he's going to ride up a hill repeatedly until he reaches an elevation climb of 8,848 metres. Now, if he chooses a hill that's, just to give you an idea of the size and scale of this challenge, if Nigel chooses a hill that's, say, 100 metres from bottom to top, he will have to cycle up that hill 89 times without sleep to reach the full elevation of the challenge. Now, 100 metres is reasonably high, people. You know, I don't even want to think about walking up 100 metres in elevation, let alone climbing up. I've done lots of bushwalks in the Blue Mountains down cliffs, and you've got to go back up to get home. 100 metres is a long way up. 8,848 metres is staggering. Now, I can't quite get my head around that. I thought that this particular challenge was incredibly impressive until Nigel told me the extent of his modified personal challenge that he's set himself to raise awareness for mental health in the greenkeeping industry. So, normally, Everesting is doing it once. And this isn't just to raise awareness in greenkeeping, mental health in greenkeeping in Australia. This is the world over. What Nigel has decided to do, and challenging himself, is what he's calling the Dirty Dozen. Nigel is going to complete one Everesting challenge on a bike every month for the year of 2025. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he's going to climb the equivalent of Mount Everest on a bike every month for 12 months, and each time it's going to be without sleep until he reaches the summit. So 12 individual Everesting challenges. Now that is mind-boggling. Nigel's going to actually join me on Walking the Fairways in a couple of weeks' time to talk about this incredible challenge he's set himself so we can learn more. Now, I can tell you that I'm going to be getting on board to support Nigel in this incredible challenge, and I'm going to be promoting what he's doing to raise awareness for mental health and keep you up to date with each individual monthly Everesting challenge he completes. I want all of you wonderful listeners to get on board and support Nigel as well. I'm getting on board, and I'm saying it out loud, and I'm announcing it here that I'm getting on board with Nigel. I want everyone else to get on board and support Nigel. Now, he'll be setting up social media pages ASAP, and I'll share them with you when they're up so you can support and follow Nigel. Now, what you should know is it's January. Nigel has already completed his first Everesting challenge. Once he told me what he was doing, I said, mate, we've got to tell everyone. We've got to get this message out there about you raising awareness for mental health and doing this astonishing challenge and completing this astonishing challenge. So I want everyone to get behind him. Social media pages are coming soon. And I'm going to do a shout out to the businesses of the broader greenkeeping industry from anywhere in the world that listen. How about you get on board and support Nigel to help him raise awareness for mental health as well? It's all about awareness and promoting Nigel doing this challenge. This is an inspirational story, and I really hope our industry, certainly here in Australia, but also all over the world, can follow and support him and raise awareness for mental health. So come on. I want the businesses of our industry to get in touch with me, thegolfinggreenkeeper@gmail.com, or on social media, and let me know that you want to support Nigel, and I'll pass you on to Nigel himself. So who is it going to be? Come on. I want you out there, you businesses out there, you business people. I know you're listening. And any greenkeepers that you know of, the business people, the people you buy from, your suppliers, you hit them up. Tell them to support, tell them to get in touch with me, tell them to support this challenge by Nigel, and we're all going to work together in increasing awareness for mental health. Now, you've heard me talk about it on this episode, on this podcast a number of times. I've interviewed people that have shared their stories about it, and we need to do more, and we need to be better in raising awareness, but also helping everyone who deals with mental health challenges in their careers in our industry. That's what we need to do better as an industry. So Nigel's taken the lead here, and it still boggles my mind, and he's going for it. He's shooting for the moon and he's almost quite literally riding there in elevation with this. So my hat is off to Nigel. I'm going to be promoting him and supporting him through this podcast to help raise awareness and to continue to raise awareness for mental health in the greenkeeping industry. And I want you guys out there, listeners, guys and girls, because this is the industry entirely, and more broadly as well. Let's continue to raise awareness, and Nigel's taken the lead. This is an inspirational story. So let's get behind Nigel, and let's be inspired to help and help each other. I want you guys and girls out there, listeners, to support Nigel. I'll say it again, and I'll say it again. I'm getting behind him. I want you to as well, and I want the businesses to get on board and support Nigel. Get in touch with me, thegolfinggreenkeeper@gmail.com, or send me a message, and I'll pass you on to Nigel, and let's get behind. Let's get the big names behind, and they can share what he's doing as well. This is going to be huge, and I want to make sure that we get it out there to as many people as possible. This has the possibility of going nationwide and around the world. It's going to hit the news, I'm sure. That's how big I want this to go. There's nothing really stopping you out there from supporting as a business. So come on, out with it. Let's go. Let's get involved, and let's continue to raise awareness. Nigel Taylor, you're doing something very, very special, mate, and lots of us will be following you and supporting you. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Walking the Fairways for episode 103. Now, don't forget, next week, John Deere Golf Keeper of the Greens makes a return. I've got a new guest on that I'm going to be chatting with, and I know you will enjoy it. Of course, sensational stuff. Don't forget, lots of clickables in the show notes, ladies and gentlemen. So bits and pieces that you've heard here are mentioned. Of course, Nigel Taylor's story will be coming out in the next Walking the Fairways, and once his social media pages are up, we will be connecting you through that as well. They'll be in the show notes, so keep an eye out, keep an ear out. And of course, I will be at WebEx Players Series Murray River at Cobram Barooga on the Thursday, the 30th of January is round one, and that's when I will be there. So if you're interested in coming out and you want to see some great golf, get to the event, come out and have a look at Cobram and see what it's all about along the Murray as well. I know you will enjoy it, ladies and gentlemen. But I will be there. Going to be doing a podcast recording there with the Women in Turf, John Deere Women in Turf initiative that's happening that John Deere are involved with. Fantastic initiative, and really excited to be involved with John Deere on this one and talking to some of the women in the industry, and there's some great female volunteers that are coming to work at the event to help Superintendent Terry Vogel preparing the golf course for the tournament. So really exciting stuff coming out of that, and I'm really excited to be involved with John Deere on this one. So I'll be travelling down there, and I look forward to bringing that one to you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of episode number 103, Walking the Fairways. So glad to be able to bring it back to you, and a lot more news coming out of the country as we move throughout the years. Don't forget, John Deere Golf Keeper of the Greens is on next week, as I give that one another plug for you. I'll leave you with it for this week, ladies and gentlemen. You hit them clean, we'll keep them green, and I'll catch up with you next week.